Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformation. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
We are live here on Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, inspirational speaker, and author, Sean Douglas. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all of our listeners from wherever you are in the world. This show is heard in 24 countries. I am so amazed. When I started the show, I didn't know it would reach that many, but thank you all so much for listening from around the world in Canada, United States, the UK, Norway, Belgium, Switzerland, India, Thailand, Indonesia, Panama, New Zealand, United Republic of Tanzania, Finland, France, Netherlands, Australia, Germany, Russia, Italy, Malaysia, Israel, Portugal, Ghana, Philippines, and Spain. You guys rock. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformations. Here we tell the stories of why we are doing what we're doing and how we are helping others transform. We are live every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time and on the first and the third Fridays at the same time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. On the show are impactful and amazing guests that are impacting everyone around them. If you have any questions for any of the guests, again, this is a live show, so you can dial in at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And my guest today is no different. She is a complete badass in the word of badassery, right? So I want you to welcome to the show Debbie Pace. What is happening?
What's up? Hey, Sean, thanks for having me.
I am so pumped that you're here. I've been looking forward to this for some time.
Me too.
So are you ready to kick this thing off?
Oh, well, you know I am. I'm just over here laying back, waiting for you to call on me. I got my hand raised. I'm ready.
Perfect. So this episode today, I love this. This episode today is titled Kick the Shit Out of Fear with Debbie Pace. This is going to be awesome. So Debbie Pace is an author, coach with an MBA, a triathlete, and a badass firewalker 4 times and counting. She is a former U.S. Navy journalist with 30 years of award-winning broadcast experience, from radio and TV news anchoring and reporting to online news editing, writing and producing, and even some country music DJing. Debbie is the Chief Empowerment Officer of Blazing Voice LLC and co-host of the Badassery Podcast. She is a global mindset and visibility mentor who coaches individuals and groups to bust through mental and technology blockages that are holding them back from speaking their deep, authentic truth and elevating their business. As a self-proclaimed Fear Extinguisher, Debbie runs fear-focused coaching and mindset programs, including a week-long challenge to help people kick the shit out of fear. Debbie is also a keynote speaker specializing in motivational events who brings her high energy, power, and passion to a deeply inspiring message. And in the show notes, we have a ton of links to get a hold. I mean, she is not hard to get a hold of at all. The website is www.blazingvoice.com. Go check it out. I did. It is absolutely amazing. And she runs the most incredible Facebook group called Trailblazing Leaders. It is a great group. So I am so pumped to hear about everything, really, the firewalking and the podcast and, kicking fear. So the first question that I always ask everybody on the show, and I believe that is the most important question that we can ever ask ourselves, is why? Why do what we do now? So what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Honestly, Sean, my why, it came from feeling at a point where I was pretty stuck and bored with my life, but I was okay. I was smooth, going along smoothly, raising my kids, having my perfect little life and all that stuff. But there was something inside of me that kept screaming out that there was more. There was more. There were people who needed my help. And even before I knew what I was doing, well before I called myself a coach, I told my husband, I said, I just feel like people are screaming out from some abyss for my help. And I hadn't even called myself a coach yet. And in fact, a funny story is that for the first several months of my online business, I actually denied that I was a coach. I would always have this little preface saying, I'm not a coach, but, and then when I would do business stuff with people, I would say, well, I'm not a business coach, but, and I finally realized every time I say that, that's obviously something else I need to own. So that was, the why was just feeling from an internal place that I was here to help people, that I was here to do more, and I was playing.
Awesome. So, I'd love to know about the firewalking. How did you get into the firewalking? I'm amused because I hear about the Tony Robbins and people walk on glass and you gotta tell me about this thing.
All right. Well, it's a great story. I'm going to go in reverse order. I've done 4, and I'm just going to tell you about the last one. There's fear. If anybody can kick the shit out of fear, I certainly can do that. But here's the thing. What we don't realize is our mind plays an odds game with firewalking. At least mine did. And I'm looking at, okay, so many people I know get little kisses, like these little if you're not in a really elevated and a proper state, as they call it, where your mind is really focused on something besides the hot fire, there's a chance that you'll get a little kiss. It's basically like a little burn, almost if you quickly touch a stove or something, and they call it a little kiss. It goes away. It's not a big deal. But here I am. I'm at my second Tony Robbins event, and I coached with someone who trained under Tony Robbins for a while. So I had basically run through this process 3 times already. 4th time was the first time my husband joined me across a firewalk. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. It was amazing. It was, honestly, that's a relationship builder if ever there was one. Take your spouse or your partner to a Tony Robbins event and walk across some fire, okay?
It's a good first date.
That's right. I just want to know what kind of fear you're made of, buddy. Come on.
All right. We got to test the waters of these relationships.
That's right. Well, I used to be told that, if you wanted to know if you had what it took with a partner, go on a long road trip. But no, we're just going to cut to the chase and walk across some fire. But what happened was my husband went across first, and I'm playing this odds game of, every time I walk across the fire and I don't get one of these kisses, because I've never, to this day, just to give you a spoiler, I have never gotten burned from a firewalk. So here I am on time number, Well, here I am on time number 4, and I'm going, all right, the odds are that it's possible. I've got like a much higher probability that I'm going to get burned on this one. And, and the other thing is it was a massive walk. It was the largest walk, the largest amount of people, all this stuff. And so I'm playing the odds game going, oh my God. So the woman at the firewalk tries to send me across. And fortunately, I've done enough of these to know, no, I'm not in the right state. I'm not there yet. I'm not going across that fire. Hell no.
Right.
So my husband goes and my buddy goes, and my husband is, he's over on the other side waiting. So I have her send someone else, and I'm doing my state, and I'm feeling all this anxiety and this stuff, and going, okay, I'm not ready. Like, no, I'm ready. And I'm doing my power moves. I'm like, yes, I'm ready. And I look over at my husband at one point, and it's been a couple of people going across the fire, and he's over there looking at me. And I just said to myself, and a side story that people probably don't know about me from your community is that my husband and I divorced and reconciled. And so this whole new adventure for us has been amazing. And I just at one point looked over at him and I said to myself, that man is waiting for me to step the fuck up. And that was, and at that moment I said, you know what? It's time. And I was never in a better state to walk across the longest fire lane in my life. And I did it, and I got there, and it was an amazing experience. And, another fear bites the dust in the book. So that's what.
Right? Bam. Love it. I love that story. because my wife and I, we divorced and then got back together, so I can completely identify with that, minus the fire walking and, so, but so that I find that interesting, because I mean, that's not something that we just, talk about at parties and, be like, hey, how's your relationship? And well, this, you know what I mean? So go back about 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. Who were you before you got to this point right now, right? Who was Debbie, like 10 years ago?
Wow, that's a good question. 10 years ago, Debbie was a self-neglecting, angry, I would say I was a bad partner. I had neglected myself so much that I lived in a state of frustration and animosity toward my husband, and spent all my time when I wasn't working, I spent all my time focused on my kids. And so everyone around me was neglected, and the ones who weren't my offspring were, unfortunately subjected to a person who was very angry and frustrated and basically just suffering because I hadn't learned how to take care of myself. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't have good role models, and I didn't even know that I was neglecting myself at that point, which is crazy.
Wow. Wow. So how did you get from that point, right? So take us through that transformation. Can you pinpoint exactly when it happened? Was it like enough is enough and I'm going to take steps forward? Or did you find something you're passionate about and ran with it, right? How did you get from that moment to where you are now?
The crazy thing is, Sean, 10 years ago, I was about to go through some really difficult. I was actually in the best shape of my life and was actually training for a figure competition where you wear the bikinis and, you walk out with your muscles and your fake tan and, and you feel really good about yourself because it's a huge accomplishment. And so about a month short of that, I felt like I wasn't being supportive, and my husband will agree that he did not support me, and he'd let the kids cry as I was going to the gym. Mommy, don't leave. Mommy, don't leave. I'm like, how is this supportive? And, yeah, you know the drill. So, but I basically I quit it because it was too difficult, and I was in a pattern of not taking care of myself and not putting my needs first. And I went from there. I mean, it was 10 years ago, I was spiraling down. I was in the process of spiraling down. My relationship was going downhill. Obviously my self-care was pretty much non-existent. I was about to get involved in a business that would end up going through bankruptcy and had investor funds. You name it. There was some, I was about to really struggle with, self-image. I put on a lot of weight past that point. And then, and I was drinking, more than usual and compromising some serious values in the process. And in 2012 is when my husband and I, we ended up truly separating, and I left the house, and, the process of the divorce was very fast because we had been in the process long enough that when we finally were ready to file, it was pretty much sign the papers and be done with it. And I, for about a year, I was single. And I did a lot of self-discovery. I realized what was important to me. And it's funny because I kept having this nagging feeling that wasn't the right move for me. Divorce wasn't the right thing for me. My family needed to be repaired. And at one point, it took one person telling me, I believe in you. And she told me, she said, God doesn't recognize divorce. And it was from that point I started watching some videos about your miracle being closer than you think. And I really wrapped my head around the fact that the whole process was love unconditionally. And it was a struggle for me because I hadn't learned to do that for myself. But I was really good at taking care of other people. So I thought, okay, I can do this. And I went back to my then ex-husband and I said, I want to fix this. I want to get back together. And I put my rings back on and I said, it's done. It's a done deal. And he was like, excuse me, I can't stand the sight of you, And it was,
right.
But it didn't take long. And that was, let's see, I think we had that conversation in December, and by March we were dating. So, So, yeah, and we got remarried just over a year after that. And so things can happen pretty quickly. But it just, I did have this one moment where I said, no more. This is not my life. This is not what I was meant to do here. This is not what I'm about. And this is not the legacy or the, what do they call it? What's the opposite of the legacy? Like the tragedy. This is not the tragedy I'm leaving for my kids. And I decided to own who I really was. And then that was what year was that? 2014. And things just have been actually skyrocketing ever since. So it's been an amazing process.
You know what I found to be the toughest part about it? Not that there's a lot of past hurt, because there is, and it's not just gonna go away, right? But it's not bringing it up and not falling back into those self-destructive patterns when you're redating and reconnecting, and you know what I'm saying? If this person makes you mad, then you all of a sudden go, "Yep, I remember 4 years ago. I remember." You know what I mean? Like it's trying to wipe the slate clean and say we're in a new relationship. The score is 0-0. You know what I mean? Whatever you want to think about it, you know. That was one of the hardest things for us was trying to reconnect and not be like, I know it. She's going to do the same thing she always does. It's not falling back into those repetitive patterns that destroyed us before.
Oh yeah. It's still even 3 years later. And 3 years, as I say, I'm like, it's just 3 years. It's still new. But 3 years later, we're still working on those things of holding back because you think you know the response that you're going to get. And well, I mean, you've never blank, right? So why would I if you've never done this, well, why would I think you're going to start doing it now? And it is, you have to work really hard to not erase, but really grow from and reframe and basically create a new picture of who your partner is. And that I agree with you. Yeah, that's been the biggest struggle for us is letting go of, and I mean, the hurt is actually, I think, believe it or not, the harmful things from the past, I think, are the easiest things to recover for, to get over and to move for. It's the person. It is the pattern of the person and replacing old patterns, because you can grow and you can evolve as a person, but your impressions of your partner, if they don't grow and evolve too, it's harder work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of went through something similar like that. Absolutely. So what do you think was the best part about your transformation so far?
You know, was really learning to pull the wool out from over my eyes to see to see what an amazing person I am. Because I listed some pretty bad shit back there of what I went through. and so to move through that with so much guilt and so much shame and so much, I broke my own rules in so many places and I'm this horrible person. So to go from there to seeing I actually kind of kick ass. I'm kind of a rock star over here. So to go from that to the other that's been my favorite part, because I always saw so many great things in others. I was just never able to see it in myself. And so it's like discovering yourself again, learning what makes you a total badass, learning what you're great at, but really what makes you lovable. And I think that was the thing that I didn't. I knew I had skills and I was smart and all this other stuff, but I never felt lovable. And so that's been a fun part, is learning to love myself and take care of myself again.
All right. So on the flip side, there's a lot of 2-part questions, like flip-sided questions. So we had the best part. Now, what's the worst part about your transformation?
I think the worst part about it is the moments where I look back and think, well, if I could have just learned this sooner, right? Or if I could have just made, right? I think that's been, or almost the anger at which, obviously, like I said, I work through so much stuff, but the anger at not coming from a different place, not figuring it out sooner, that kind of stuff. That's been the worst part, is letting go of the beating yourself up. But it's a process that I still work through, because we're humans, and every day you can look at your humanness with a critical eye or with a loving eye. It's just which one you choose.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's been a couple times in my life and I'm like, no way is it that simple. Like, no way. And then it is. And I'm like, son of a, I struggled for years. And then you find one tip, one thing that unlocks, everything, like unlocks all these doors, and you just skyrocket as a person and as a business, and you're just like, where was this 4 years ago?
Yes.
As I'm struggling, I'm like,
yeah. And I'm looking at these 20 and 30 somethings going, you know what? You are very fortunate, and I wish that I knew the things and had access to the things, and I feel like where I am in my mid-40s, I can't imagine people who are starting this stuff in their 20s where they're going to be in their mid-40s, and it just makes me excited. I don't know about you, but I get excited about the transformation.
I get super excited. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So who has been your biggest influencer?
I have a lot of people, and I think that maybe my answer might not be that mainstream, in that my biggest influencers have been the naysayers, who have been the people who told me, that I'm a little bit irreverent, Sean, in case you don't know that about me.
Haven't noticed.
Go ahead. Tell me I can't. Punk. No. So I usually, when people tell me I can't do something, I will find a way. And I don't mean like you can't tell me I can't actually fit my car off this bridge. I'm going to find a way. That's not what I mean.
Right.
What I mean is, if there's something that I really want to do, and it's for my good or good of my family or whatever, and someone says, well, you can't do it that way, or you can't do it, or if someone like you won't do it. And I remember, I have great stories about my time in the Navy. When I was stationed in Guantanamo Bay at a radio station down there, and my petty officer, I don't even remember, he was, I think, my direct supervisor. I can't remember, but I think there were 3 of them who shared the same role, and they just kind of tag teamed, like, I'm the boss today. Wow. Anyway, so he told me, I remember day one, I was like, I'm going to quit smoking, because, most people join the Navy and they start smoking. And I was like, I'm going to quit smoking now, because I was always a healthy person, but I took up this habit, and I decided, no, I'm going to get healthier. And day one, he goes, oh, you'll never quit smoking. And I remember in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, watch me. Here we go. And I quit. Right. It was the end, and
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm kind of a little bit strong-willed like that. So I'm sure I was a difficult child at times to those who maybe were not as strong as I was. So, yeah.
No, absolutely.
So, yeah, and I would say my biggest supporter, and I kind of like to call him my biggest fan, is definitely my husband, who wants nothing but to see me rise as high as I can and love me the most he possibly can every day.
There you go. Oh, I love it. So do you feel like your transformation is complete, or are you kind of still working on things?
Oh, not even close. I don't see that. I don't. I mean,
sure.
As long as we're human, I don't think our transformation is complete. Because we're just evolutionary people, and what doesn't grow dies. I heard that from Tony Robbins, and I believe that. I do believe that especially for me, because the transformation is so powerful and empowering that I can't imagine I would ever even want to be done transforming. Because I ask questions. I mean, I have 30 years of journalism and broadcasting experience, and asking the questions is my thing. So when I get to a space, I'll always ask more questions. I'll always continue my transformation and evolution. So, so I journal every day, and what comes out in the journal is different every day. So as long as I do that, I can't imagine my transformation would ever be complete.
I love that answer. That was an awesome answer. So tell me how you take driven, successful entrepreneurs to greater heights by leading them through a deep healing process. What does that look like?
Okay. Remember all that shit I talked about back there a couple minutes ago?
Yeah.
Everybody's got some. Everybody's got some.
Oh, yeah.
So what I do, though, is I really make it a safe place to go to look back there, to go through it again, to rewrite and reframe the stories, because a lot of people carry stories, carry meanings, carry beliefs with them, and they're detrimental. They keep so many people from moving forward. And so what I do is, I mean, look, it's funny, like I'm a badass. It's like, let's do it, push through. But honestly, when I'm working with someone, I'm very loving. I'm very nurturing. I'm tough. I'm not going to allow you to continue to play your bullshit stories through your head. We're going to call that out. We're going to move through that. But you're going to know you're loved through the whole process. And part of that is I've gone really, really deeply myself and then found a way to love myself. And I pull those driven entrepreneurs who basically they're successful. I was always successful. I've never had a problem making money, not ever. So that was never the problem. The problem was I always self-sabotaged because I didn't love myself. And I was in these patterns of consistent, like penalty for whatever. I was constantly beating myself up and making myself pay over and over again for something that happened 20, 30 years ago. And so what I do is I take these really successful people who just can't figure out this one thing, like there's something stopping me and I don't know what it is. This is what it is, by the way. To anyone listening, this is what it is. There's some shit in the background that you haven't dealt with that you're going to have to take the time and go and revisit and walk through and own your decisions, own what you did, own what happened to you, and find a new way to look at it, to deal with it, find a way to be grateful for it, and then learn to do the same thing with yourself through every action, through everything you've ever beat yourself up for. And that's the process that I walk through with them. And on the other side, they learn all they ever had to do was just love themselves, right? If I just knew this 20 years ago, right? But it's
self-love is huge.
Yes. And it's that easy, but it's not that easy because if you don't know the tools, or you don't realize what you're doing, or you don't realize something is a bullshit story, you don't know that it needs to be, I say fixed, but you don't know that you need to reframe it, or you need a resource to work around it to find a better headspace for it.
I think where it really lies, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, because I mean you're the expert on that. I don't want to disagree with that. I totally agree with that. But I think on a deeper level, and this is just my opinion and things that I've learned through my resilient skills and all the research and stuff, is that some people just don't feel like they deserve to be loved, even by themselves or by somebody else or whatever. There's like an underlying issue or underlying something that says that they're not worthy of somebody else's love, or I don't care about myself, and like they're their own worst critic, and it is a terrible way to live.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And it's always traceable back to an event, and it's always a person that is not us. Always. It's always a story that came from somewhere. And so I don't disagree with what you said at all. In fact, I 100% stand behind it, that there are people who – and that's where – yeah, and that's where I'll say you haven't gone back far enough, or you haven't gone deeply enough, because as if you think about it, as human beings, we are all created equally with will and power and beautiful creatures. So that belief that we're not worthy or deserving of being here had to come from somewhere. It's not innate in babies. Babies don't say, well, I'm just not going to cry because I'm not supposed to be here. No, baby's going to cry until it learns it's not going to get what it needs, and maybe, neglect or whatever, it will learn, okay, maybe I should just not cry because it hurts and it feels painful and I don't get what I need. I mean, I'm not in any way going to say that what someone has been through or feels isn't legitimate. In fact, quite the contrary. I'll always validate what people are feeling, but it's always traceable back somewhere.
I love it. So I'm so interested to hear about this. So how do you teach messengers how to step up fully, get more visible, and confidently own the stage, camera, and microphone with their amazing gifts? Because I'm a speaker. I started off as a drill instructor in 2009 for basic training, and it unlocked a door to a passion I never knew existed. I just thought MTIs were like badasses and they get to scream at people and, destroy people in basic training. It's like that's the person you fear most when you go to basic training. Like, oh my God, my drill instructor is going to kill me, right? But I went on a deeper level, and I was like, man, I'm going to rock this thing. And I'm going to be like a motivating instructor. But I will smoke you if I have to. But, oh, yeah, it's going to be motivating. It's going to be – and so I refined my skills and honed my craft. And, you got to teach drill classes, you got to teach other things, you got to teach academics. But that's where I unlocked a passion I never knew I had. So how do you get people to become more visible and confidently own the stage, since public speaking is the number one thing that people are afraid of more than death?
Well, I kick the shit out of fear. Actually, no, I'm joking.
Perfect.
They do. I run people through a process, and it's muscle building. It's everything that I said about tracing back to where all of your untrue stories lie, and then looking at what your fears are. Who are your fears of disappointing? Who are your fears? When you get out on stage, or even the thought of it, the thought of being behind this microphone right now, they would have panic attacks. People might not even call into your show, even though they're listening, because they're afraid to be on the mic, or they think they sound horrible, or they're afraid they're going to say something stupid. So what happens, though, is at some point you have to look at it conversely and say, yeah, but what's the worst thing that could happen? I love to say they can't take away your birthday. I've been saying that for years and years and years, because they cannot take away your birthday. No one can take away your birthday. Can you possibly feel stupid for a moment? Sure. But what do you really lose? What are you going to lose? It's not like your job is going to fire you if you call into a show, or you're on public stage and you maybe stumble. Hello, that's called being human. And there are several different components of it. And so looking at that fear and putting it in a realistic light, because what we focus on becomes larger. And the more you think about your fear, the larger it becomes. So we basically shrink it back down to the little pea size that it is. And we acknowledge that it's there. I see you over there, little pea-sized fear. But what's really important to me, you will not stop me from doing. So I have to really figure out a way to shrink it back down, call it what it is, call a spade, whatever, and understand that you're going to survive it. You're going to keep breathing. Nobody's going to take away your birthday. And so when you look at what you really, really have to risk versus what you really, really have to gain, we really change the scales on what has the most weight. And so that's a process that I run people through, and it's a really effective one.
Awesome. Oh, I love it. So in addition to that, where are you headed now? New adventures, businesses, family? What do you got cooking up?
Well, a lot. Because I'm not someone who really likes to sit still like you, Sean. I'm sure you're a pretty active guy. Yeah. But just to focus on a couple of things, I've been working with someone on my branding, and we're pretty much, I'm pretty bold and pretty outspoken, and a pretty powerful coach. But we're going to bring all that together and really recreate the image, and things are gonna heat up and spice up a good bit in my spaces, including the Trailblazing Leaders group that you're in, and there's going to be a lot more teaching and stuff. I typically have done programs in the past with a small focus on my one-on-one coaching, but I'm actually shifting more into the healing component, and I still do the visibility because it's kind of like a little sneaky thing that even in my visibility programs and my publicity programs, I actually focus on mindset, because that's everything. Anybody can push any button, anybody can learn any program. If your mind is in the right place, you will kick ass no matter where you are. And so I really have, you know it. You totally know it. But I've moved from a place of focusing on group programs to really wanting to focus on much more transformational, higher end fully compositional type of coaching with clients on a one-on-one basis, because that is really where I believe my power is. Some people are great in groups and the social thing, and I'm fine in the groups, but I really think the power comes from one-on-one and giving people that individualized attention to work through, because a lot of the stuff that I work through with people, it's personal, it's scary. They'll go out and they will start their messaging and they will help unleash other people by sharing their trauma, by sharing what they've overcome. But in the process of going through it, not everyone wants to be an open book. Not everyone wants to expose themselves in groups. And so to get to the level of trauma that I typically get to with people, I find that it's very effective in a one-on-one basis. And so I'd like to focus more there for a while.
Perfect. So if you had to go back, would you change anything? Would you do anything different?
Okay. The one thing that I'll say right here, I'm never a what if person, and I don't typically spend my time in the past, but I will say that I took my physical health for granted. I was doing triathlons. I did 3 in 2015. I did 3 in the fall. And then I just decided I wanted to take some time off. And I basically what I call kind of jumped off the cliff from my training and decided to start back up in February after being off a couple of months. And I ended up injuring my knee, and it's been a long saga. I've had surgery. I'm actually going to have to reconsider a second surgery this Friday. But I would say that just to go back though, and I've not been able to run. I've not been able to do anything. So it really has been an identity, a remake. I used to call it an identity crisis, but it's been a remake because I think I put too much weight on what I could accomplish and not enough weight on just being who I really am and what makes me powerful in that sense. So I would say it's if I were to go back on anything, it would be that I wouldn't have stopped working out. But also, I don't know if I would be where I am and gotten the lessons I've gotten and found the true gifts in me if I was still able to run from my problems with all the working out and stuff. So, it took away a coping mechanism for me, and I had to go internally. So I knew I was going to say that. I knew I was going to say I wouldn't change anything, but I really thought, I wouldn't stop working out. But I guess it always comes back to I wouldn't change anything because it's a gift to be right where I am right now, hanging out with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's astonishing at some of the answers I get at that question. Some people are like, oh, no, everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Then there's other people like, oh, no, I messed up way too much. I got to fix it all.
Yeah.
So
well, I wanted to really have something good. I wanted to have something really good to be like, you know what? I think I would change this thing. And then I wrap myself right back around to, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't change it. Yeah.
So tell me what the best resource that you had found during your journey with no one's help.
For lack of sounding narcissistic, I really would say my intuition. From coming from time in the corporate world to time in the Navy, where so many places we were taught to not think for ourselves, not listen internally, and just follow other people's rules.
Blindly.
Yes. And I mean, even we're talking, sit down and shut up when I was 4 or 5 years old. So I remember opening the wrong present when I opened my sister's Mickey Mouse watch when I was like 3 or 4, and I got yelled. I got berated for that. And so it's kind of like you can't think for yourself. You can't do anything for yourself. So from a very early age, I pretty much shut down my intuition. So honestly, the best resource I found was learning to listen internally again, because it doesn't steer you wrong.
Wow. I've never heard that answer ever in all the shows. I get like experience or, I stumbled upon this one book or whatever, but intuition, that is, how important is that though? Like how important is it to really listen to, some people's like, I had a gut feeling about that, or I kind of knew that's what, does it go into like trusting yourself are you, because John Maxwell talks about guarding self-talk, right, in a negative way, and then listening to your self-talk when you have like your gut instincts, right? So can you expand on that and really, I'm interested to know how that works. What's a scenario that you've got to listen to yourself, right? Or your experience or what have you.
Well, the scenario is always, because we always have our best answers. But when I'm not too familiar with John Maxwell's teaching, so I don't know if I can really speak to that. But just from what I take in your question, I would say that of course, there's that negative self-talk, but part of that comes from, honing that comes from learning to see things from a grateful perspective. Even when you think something might not be going well, it's just reframe it and find the gift in every moment, and you will change that self-talk. But separating out that intuition from the voice in your head is critical, and maybe that's what you're talking about. I find that you need to always listen to your intuition, always, because your head will lead you in the wrong place, but your heart never will. Never. Your heart never will.
Interesting. Okay. I like it. So is there someone that gave you a resource that you've used during your journey? Like someone gave you a book or someone, like what's the resource that someone gave you that really elevated you as a person?
I've actually gotten the same resource from a bunch of places. I'm really fortunate, like you, I'm sure, to be in some amazing groups of people, several Facebook groups, the Tony Robbins community and some others. And I think I had come across it 3 or 4 times and heard of it, and I just kind of dismissed it. And to most recently, one of my really close colleagues reminded me about Ho'oponopono. And basically it's the Hawaiian, it's like a prayer for forgiveness. It's about healing. And it's about taking responsibility for everything that not just happens to you, but which basically directly impacts you. So it's almost like understanding that whatever comes to us, we're bringing, because life is energetic. And so it's like some person being angry and then wondering why they get all the red lights, right? You're attracting that energy. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But, the science of we're energetic beings made of molecules is not disputable. So if you look at we're drawing things to us, Ho'oponopono is really about forgiveness. It's I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And it's about acknowledging your role in everything around you and finding forgiveness for that, finding a place where you're okay with everything. And that's a great resource, especially for people who are healing, because a lot of times when you heal, you have to go back through some pretty difficult events that involve others.
Oh, yeah.
And so forgiving them and finding a way to love them after what happens is the most freeing and healing thing you can ever do. And so it's a resource that took me several times to hear until I finally embraced it and started using it. And it's an absolute life changer.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying about going back through. When I wrote my book, it was like therapy, because for that moment I had to relive some of those feelings that I had pushed aside from child abuse and moving around and bullying and suicides. And, there was so much pain that I had gone through, and I'd never really forgiven myself, forgiven anybody else. I was just a hateful person back in 2008, even prior to that, prior to 2008, all the way to 2008. And I slowly started giving way. But when I wrote my book last year, it was like therapeutic. And I swear, when I had shut the door, right, shut the book, closed up my notes, sent it off, like this is the final copy, boom, whatever, it was like I was shutting the door on that chapter. And it was like I gave myself permission to heal. And then as my family members have read my book, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that you felt that way, or I didn't think it was that bad to you, or, but it's my own, interpretation, my own feelings, so I was a lot better person because I confronted those feelings. I made meaning of those feelings, and I could deal with them appropriately as I acknowledge that I have those type of feelings. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, and you took
It's
the
huge.
power away.
Oh my God, it was huge.
Yeah, and you took the power away from the bad memories too. And I think that
Yes.
that's something I always ask people, look, you're going to continue to revisit these horrible memories. Would you like to visit them over and over, or do you want to visit them one more time and actually find better meaning for them, do difficult work, plow through, and actually finally leave them behind for good? And I think, you writing the book, that's why some people don't ever write the book and don't ever get visible, because they just don't want to go through the pain of revisiting. I mean, come on, Sean, how painful was it going through some of those things in your mind?
Oh my gosh. I think I lost count at how many times I cried while writing my book. I literally it was that bad. Like I literally poured my heart out into this book, right? And my wife was super pissed because I would talk about I was with this girl and I loved her so much. And she's like, but she cheated on you. I'm like, I know, that's what the chapter's about. She hurt me. She's like, screw that girl. I was like, I know. Like, you don't have to fight my battle. But she was like, do you still love her? I'm like, oh, God, here we go.
I was waiting for that.
Right? And I was like, no, this is like past tense stuff. Like, she doesn't even matter. Like, it's fine, But it was like, then why talk about it? Because it's a past hurt that I never deal with. I got used to masking my pain, and I never said that this happened. This is okay, and move on. It was just, I'm moving on. I'm not going to stay here. You know what I mean? But you have to go back to that place, bury those feelings, the hurts, and just bury it and be like, it's done. It's done and over with. Like, you know what I mean? And just acknowledge that, because a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that it happened, especially like death family members and stuff. They don't want to acknowledge that it happened. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to, whatever. But I feel like writing my book, I properly grieved over every single horrible, bad thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I don't even need to talk about it. I don't need to grieve about it. I can talk about it freely because I've acknowledged and I've dealt with those feelings, and it was like a healing process.
Yeah, and that's the work that a lot of people will have to go through in order to really rise. And a lot of I work with a lot of really high figure earners, and they're so successful in these other places. And once they heal, once they go through that, and most of them have gone through it because there's a direct correlation between what you're able to allow yourself to receive from both a financial and an interpersonal relationship perspective. But once you do that work, you rise higher, and so this is what I would say to people: when you are doing all this work and you're pushing hard and, you're an action taker and you're like, why is it always so hard? I really, really have found that it's because you're not actually doing the healing work that is going to really allow you to listen and tune into your intuition, to follow the path of least resistance for you, and to actually come from a place of authenticity, because you're not busy dragging bags of bullshit behind you that no longer serve you and are no longer part of your life. Yeah. Did you see like the rucksack behind you? Did you like have that visual of dragging those bags and bags of stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like I had so much emotional baggage, right? Like my emotional intelligence was so lacking, like so not there. I wasn't aware of my own feelings as well as other people's feelings, and I was such a terrible person. But as I grew and I learned resilient skills, right? It's not just, what I find interesting is that people just, I'm going to read this book and then I'm going to be awesome. No, sorry.
Yeah, it's in the action,
right?
Yeah, I mean,
you have to apply.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to apply. So that's what I was missing. That was the key thing that I was missing, because I was just consuming. It was like, nothing's happening. But it tells you, like, if you read it, it tells you, like, do this. Like, you have to do, right, and take massive action. And when I did that, my life was 10x. Absolutely 10x.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's what you talk about. Well, how do you get people past the fear? It's action. It's exactly that. It's as long as you sit there and think about and fantasize about fear, it's going to keep you stuck. so the way through it is always through taking the action. And somebody said today in a group that knowledge is power, and I learned knowledge and information, what you do with that information and taking the action is actually the power. And so that's where it all lies, is in the action.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Life Transformation Radio listeners, if you've been listening to this amazing show, I'm taking tons of notes. I'm trying to figure out how I can apply all this to my life. If anything resonated with you, comment on Facebook, call in and ask questions. The number is 657-383-1109. We're going to be wrapping up soon. So if you got questions, if you're listening, go ahead, call in, ask your legitimate question, because sometimes we get some weirdos on the show. So ask your questions, because I screen all the calls. So I'd love to get your input. This has been so awesome. Again, that number is 657-383-1109. So we're at the point of the show, and this is my most favorite part, is the shameless plug. You can plug a friend, quote, websites, Facebook, products, your favorite movie, give a shout out, whatever you want. This is your time. You've been shining all episode, but this is your time to shine, right? So you can promote whatever you want. Shameless plug, go.
Well, I have an application that I ask people to fill out when they work with me, which you can fill out on blazingvoice.com, and it's under the Work with Debbie tab. But if I were to plug something, honestly, I have some amazing friends who have just released a movie on iTunes, and it's called The Messengers, a podcast documentary. And it is an emotional movie. It's done from some of my colleagues here in Florida. It is a high caliber motion picture. And they are trying to be basically the underdog, and come and actually have it released as a number one. And it's right now going up against, oh my gosh, I forget. What's the number one pre-release movie with, not Tom Cruise. Well, I can't remember. Anyway, but it's really an awesome show, and it talks about the importance of podcasting, what it can do for your business, and we're all messengers. And so I aligned with them very quickly, and I love them so much, and we've just become a tight-knit group of friends. So I would love it if your audience did nothing but went and downloaded that movie and pre-release on iTunes to support some people who are really trying to be game changers and go up against the blockbuster movie companies and show them we can do things differently and we can succeed.
Wow. That is incredible. I'm definitely gonna look that up, because
it's $5.99.
I'm just thinking, when I started the show, I just wanted to talk to amazing people. Like, it wasn't selfish, but at the same time, I was like, how cool would it be to talk to like really cool people that are doing some really cool things? Like, you know what I mean? So I really honed in. I sat down and said, what is the purpose of my show? Like, what is it? Right. And the one thing I always talk about in resilience is transformation. You have to change. You have to transform, because if you're not growing, you're dying. So, you have to transform. So I'm like, dude, that's it. That's the transformation. So I wanted to hone in on what was that moment of transformation, right? And what are you doing now? And so this right here, this platform, I've met you and the Make-A-Wish founder, Frank Shankowitz, and UFC's Bruce Buffer was on my show, and like all these badass people that I would have never had the chance to sit with had I not done this. And I've learned some amazing things, and I've created a lot of value for other people at the same time, and it has morphed into people who are like, I love your show. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. So I love the fact that they're going to make a podcasting movie, because it is huge, podcasting. Huge, right? It's almost what are you doing when commercials come on TV? I'm just going to finish up this podcast real quick, or I'm just going to look at my phone, or, whatever. I run to Eric Thomas, Gary Vaynerchuk, Les Brown. Like, I run to their motivational videos. Like, when we're driving on road trips, whenever I'm going to speak somewhere, I throw in a podcast. I just finished up in record time, I think. I finished up Russell Brunson's Marketing in Your Car podcast. I listened to all 100, 200 episodes or whatever in like a couple months because I used to listen to it on the way to work and then on the way back from work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like every day. Right? Back and forth to my work center.
Yeah, well, the movie has been finished. I've seen it like 3 times in pre-release already, and they're going to make a second one. But this one takes like 3 months to get iTunes approval because it is a really strenuous and thorough process. But they got the approval, and so it's going to be released soon. And it's exactly that. Podcasting it's everything. We think about it. Podcasting can go with you in your car, grocery shopping.
Yep.
It can go to bed with you at night while you're sleeping.
Yep.
You can be, anywhere and anything. And and we feel like, I'm sure your listeners, Sean, feel like they know you, feel like they're a part of your life, feel like if they met you, they could hang out with you and have a cup of coffee with you and chat for hours because they know you so well. That's what podcasting does. And they really just totally exposed the industry in this movie in an awesome way, and stories you wouldn't believe. I cried, I laughed, I cried some more, I laughed some more. It's an awesome movie, and so they're really great people. They've helped me a lot as well, and so I would love to pay it forward and just have your listeners download their iTunes movie, The Messengers, a podcast documentary. It's like $5.99 on iTunes.
There you go, The Messengers. So as we wrap up, can you deliver your best nugget of knowledge that will motivate, transcend, and inspire someone?
Yeah. I never.
Yeah.
I never. What's funny is I never.
Yeah.
I always follow my intuition because I believe that our intuition never leads us to the wrong place. And so I got this question ahead of time, and I refused to even dwell on it because I knew that whatever your listeners needed to hear at the time would come out. And I would honestly say that the best nugget that I tell people is to go internally for your answers, no matter what you're looking for. If it's a new relationship, a better relationship, a new business, a better business, trying to find your life's purpose, all of this, the best thing you can do is go internally and journal out what you want and what could be stopping you.
Real quick, I'm going to challenge you. You up for it?
I'm always up for a challenge, my friend.
Okay. 30 seconds or less. How crucial is journaling?
Non-negotiable. And I have 29 seconds to spare. It's an but I'll continue. It's a non-negotiable game changer. It is. It's a game changer. Whenever you think you need to buy another course, or you've read a book or done a course and it's not working, go to the journal. The journal is where all the real work happens. Yep.
My book. Listen to this. I really want you to, I don't think I've really told anybody this. My book was my journaling. That's where it came from. I had all these notes. I had all these feelings. I had all these, I was just journaling stuff, and I learned like, oh, you have to journal this. I'm like, whatever, dude. Like, I'm not going to write in my diary. Right. And then I wake up in the middle of the night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I thinking about this? Because journaling brings up things that you never thought that you would think about ever again. Like, why am I thinking about that? That was like 10 years ago. That's so stupid. Like, why would I be thinking about that? And then it festers with you, and it festers. Yeah. It's just so stupid. Why am I thinking? And then you figure out, oh my God, I really did say something stupid. Like 10 years ago, like I said something really retarded. Like, oh my God, that was so stupid. I can't believe I did that. Like I was drunk and ran around Walmart one time. There was a box of like Lucky Charms or some kind of box of cereal or whatever. And I called up my friend and I was like, dude, did I really do that? And he's like, dude, seriously. I'd run around the cereal. I'm like, I got the last box. And I was pointing at people like, you can't have it. You can't have it. As I'm running around, you know what I mean? Like an idiot, drunk, at like 11 o'clock at night because I'd gotten the last box of cereal that I really wanted. I was like, oh my God, it was so stupid.
Well,
but that's what prompted my book.
I'm not surprised at all to hear that, Sean. So many successful people turn their journaling into books. So And that's exactly why it's so important to journal. That's where all the work is. It leads you to the right place. It, I guess, helps you create your book. And look, just as an aside, we all say stupid shit all the time and do stupid, and we don't need alcohol to do it. Okay. So, but that's when you're a messenger, when you are a messenger and you're here and you're helping people heal, you're going to say things that sometimes go, where the hell did that come from? But I always trust that even if I feel so, like, I remember I was doing, before I owned all my stuff publicly, I was doing a live stream on Facebook, and that's always been my thing. I was doing a live stream, and I'm talking about this transformational stuff, and all of a sudden I threw out there about reconciling my marriage, and I'm like, shit, why did I do that? I wasn't ready to do that. And don't you know, a coaching client reached out to me from that call and said, I didn't know that you and your husband reconciled, because I'm really struggling because I'm divorced, and I just don't think it's the right, same exact things that I felt. And I guided him to the best possible place for him. But I never would have done that had I not seen something I was absolutely dead set on exposing publicly. And from that point, I owned it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. That is incredible. Okay, so give us a call to action. What should someone do today? Should they go to your website, buy a book, or set goals or plans, or write in a journal? Like, what is your call to action?
My call to action is for people to join Trailblazing Leaders, my Facebook group, because I'm really pulling together a group of people like you, Sean, who are action takers, who maybe have not yet owned some parts that they maybe feel maybe they don't even know that they're holding back. Maybe someone listening is wondering why they're not able to move forward in a certain area or have success in a certain area or whatever. Or maybe they just feel like nobody out there gets them. They're surrounded by non-action takers or negative people who aren't trying to be a change and aren't really trying to push a movement forward. That the space of Trailblazing Leaders is people doing just that, taking sometimes really difficult action, facing fears. I do a lot of times I'll run fear programs and some little challenges in there to help move people forward a little bit. So I would, if nothing else, I would ask people to definitely join Trailblazing Leaders. And from there, you'll find what you need, and you can follow people, you can find programs, you can make new friends, find the support, get resources, whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This has been so amazing. I am so glad we got a chance to do this. I have had a blast on this episode.
Oh, me too. Yeah, me too. It's been fun. I could probably talk for hours with you because we have such similar, I think we have similar energy, and we're like, we've been through similar things too. And I think that helps.
Right.
And, hopefully we're able to help some people who are out there listening to maybe move through something that they thought was the worst thing, but maybe hearing it here, realize, you know what, stuff does happen and I can move through it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. Thank you for your time. And I will definitely be talking to you very soon.
Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate you having me on here. It's an honor.
Oh, thank you so much. You are so welcome. Life Transformation Radio listeners, go to www.blazingvoice.com. Get connected with Debbie Pace. If you can't tell, she is super passionate, super energetic, high energy, and you will not regret it. Join the Trailblazing Leaders Facebook group, and you will not regret it. Again, this is Life Transformation Radio, where we have impactful guests doing amazing things, elevating everyone around them. Join us every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and on the first and third Fridays at the same time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for joining us for this amazing episode. And like I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the values that you hold deep in your heart. I call that living your brand. Thank you, and join us next time on Life Transformation Radio. Have a good night.